Welcome to Demming Chronicles, where we focus on issues that are current and trending. We intend to nudge the conversation in a direction that will change how we do business in this country. Our aim is to change the conversation because we believe that changing the conversation will change the action. On today's program, we have entrepreneur Derek Chin. Welcome, Derek. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Denise.
Yes. And our next guest, artist entrepreneur Lisa Sarjeant.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And we look forward to a fantastic program with Derek Chin and Lisa Sarjeant. Demming Chronicles. We'll be back with you shortly. Welcome back to Demming Chronicles. And on today's program, Derek Chin. And Derek, let me start off with the first question. What is your assessment of the business environment at the moment?
Well, it's an interesting question. Of course, we have all been going through a tremendous situation, negatively speaking, with regards to the effects of the pandemic. And it's been going on since, March of this year. I think every business, everyone has been affected in more ways than one. Whether you're an individual or whether you're an independent shop owner or if you're a conglomerate or medium-sized business, so it's been a pretty tough situation. Everyone is just praying and hoping that, yes, the vaccine that has just been announced will be ready and ready to go in a very short period of time so that we can relieve ourselves a little bit from this stress. Overall, in terms of the situation in Trinidad, in our country, we've had a lot of fallouts. A lot of people are been obviously following the rules and the protocols, and hopefully, I think the Prime Minister is coming back on this afternoon. But we say a little prayer and hope that more and more we can open back up, and less cases are being reported. So it's been like nail biting for the last couple of months. Every time that we have to shut down, it's a serious situation, both in terms of the social and the financial situation. So we are hoping that, and I'm not saying only myself, all of us are hoping that things can slowly get back to normal. And with Christmas just around the corner, this is obviously one of the better times for business in June year. And of course, there's going to be a tremendous fallout in effect because of the current COVID. But we were going to try to make the best of what we have.
Yeah. You mentioned that the Prime Minister is coming on today to have another conversation with the country. What do you think is the role of the government with regard to business and stimulating business? What should the government be doing?
Well, I mean, one understands the situation that the government finds itself, and this is not only in our government, but all over the world, that we have had something that is totally unprecedented. We had to learn about what the COVID was. We had to learn about its situation in terms of contagion, and then in terms of deaths that rise out of that. And it has been a real balancing act. I think we tend to want to criticize many times, and I have done that too. But to understand their situation, they want to ensure that the country is kept safe. But at the same time, we on the other side said, well, we have to live with COVID. We realize that. We have to ensure that the economy doesn't stagnate to the extent that things fall apart and people are obviously out of work and all different levels of the society. And so that balancing act is going to be so, I suppose, such a difficult thing to really solve, because on the one hand, you do have the situation of trying to ensure that this thing doesn't get out of hand. And then the other side, you have people's lives have been disrupted, and the longer we continue to close down, and the longer we continue to have no jobs and no social interaction, the country starts to fall apart. Yes. So sometimes we say things like, we don't want the candle to cost more than the funeral, and that is such a saying that is, we all say that, we say, well, somehow we need to bend rules a little bit, but how much do you bend is also a situation that is could backfire in your face. Mm-hmm. So as a society, as a business community, we understand that, but we are trying to work with the government as best as we can to see what is the right balance.
Yes. And what role do you see that the banking sector has? Because they're pretty liquid at the moment. What
I, I,
action do you see
I
the
didn't
bank?
hear that. I didn't hear that too clearly. What's that? Say it again.
I was asking, what role do you see the banking sector playing in this situation? Because they are pretty liquid. So what should they be doing?
Well, the banks have offered moratoriums in most cases with companies and businesses that have large debt. Of course, we negotiate a lot of times. They haven't taken a hard and fast position because they realize that what has happened is not normal. It's as I said, unprecedented. So, in terms of the relationships you have with your bank, I think from the past and into the future, that has helped a lot. We've had very good relationships with our banks. We tell them when we are running into problems. They come out and we sit down, we negotiate, and whether we can get a percentage point here or there, we certainly work towards that. And of course, to extend the terms of the loans, so that our monthly payments are reduced substantially.
Yeah.
Of course, the time is going to come into next year when all that comes to an end, when we have to face the music. And I think next year is where the big challenges will be for all of us.
Lovely. And what do you anticipate next year? Where do you see opportunities coming?
Well, in COVID, it has positives and it had negatives. I'll give you an example that I've experienced myself. We have a lot of restaurants, and of course, with the shutdowns and all the limitations and all the difficulties, for a long period of time, we had no business. So, what do we do with our staff? Well, of course, the front of the house staff would probably have to be furloughed, taken a couple here and there where you can manage it. But what we do at the back of the house, and I thank my son for this, he seems to have taken a piece of me, which is good. He went into start looking at what can we do to maybe provide economical meals, frozen foods like frozen pizzas, lasagnas, and macaronis and meatballs and stuff with our risoni line. And he
Mhm.
started to experiment and package and work in terms of getting quality products that can last 6 months. And we work with our consultants and so on. And lo and behold, within by say May, June, he had product coming out. And now if you go to all the major supermarkets around Trinidad, you see the Rizzoni's brand selling all sorts of Italian products, frozen Italian food, which appear at a very economical price. We're talking about feeding a family for less than $120, and maybe you'll have leftovers too. So so out of that, I said, I like this idea. I mean, you started as an amateur, and you now are supplying in many of the major retail stores, just like that. So maybe there's potential here. So we are actually now looking at developing that in a big, big way. So we can use indigenous products like our local plantains and our okros, and that's an area that we feel has a lot of potential. So we're working on that, and hopefully maybe into next year, we have a whole new line of products that you can find on your table and you don't feel to cook too much.
That's
So
a
out of a negative, we made a positive.
Yes, that's such a brilliant story that out of the difficulties, you now have a new product line, and it's a product line that has the backward linkages to our agricultural sector.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
couldn't have you on the program without asking you about what is your strategy in Guyana?
Okay, well, Guyana is a little worse off in terms of their cases with the pandemic over there, but we invested and made a movie town become a reality there in March of 2019. Now, if you look at the history between March 2019 and today, you would wonder, boy, the timing could be so bad because remember they had a pre-election situation, they had an election situation, they had a post-election situation, and only recent times they have a government. I think 120 days in power now. So that has settled down. But during that period of time, there was obviously a lot of this uncertainty and a lot of people who would want to come in as a tenant, a lot of people who would want to get involved stayed out because the Guyanese are not as risk takers as Trinidadians. Okay, so everything was kind of kept in a kind of abeyance. And then, of course, all of that, you have the COVID, which was the kind of the final nail, if you want to call it that. So we've been shut down, movie down there for, I would say, a period easily March, shut down closely, but during that period, March of last year to March of this year, it has been very, very, very poor and very bad. Very few months that we had to open. And then, of course, we're now hoping that December 1st is the day that they can now start to maybe copy Trinidad and open up the cinemas, and we can get that part going. The same thing applies to restaurants. They are all the restaurants that have in-house dining are all closed, and we are hoping again that they can open back up and we can be able to sell alcohol also. So it's been a very challenging situation. But in terms of strategy, I think Guyana offers us a tremendous amount of opportunities. We are actually doing a major investment there again, next to Movie Town. That is, we have tendered for a 160-room hotel, and including a lot of other things that I'm going to put together with that hotel. So we're hoping that that project will be approved and we can go ahead and start doing it.
What is your anticipation of the competition that you are getting from people like Netflix, all of those big brands who are bringing movies into people's homes?
Well,
How is your competition like?
yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head there, because it's something you have to be concerned about, because technology is something that, can wipe you out if you don't decide to move with it. You've seen what has happened to Polaroid and Kodak and all these. A couple of years ago, that was the big thing, going to buy a film and taking a picture, a photograph. Now that doesn't even exist again. Everybody has the iPhones and the Samsungs or whatever. So in the cinema industry, we are concerned about the fact, because there are no avenues for the film studios to show movies, they have looked for alternatives, and they've decided to sell some of their movies into streaming, Netflix, and I think Disney Plus and so on. So what does that do for us? Of course, now we are now faced with tremendous competition. So it goes back to my old philosophy. What do I need to do to make sure that you don't want to stay home? You don't want to sit down in your bed and just watch a movie. That's boring. That's antisocial. And that's what I said with COVID. COVID is an antisocial disease. So we in the hospitality business have to think about, how do we get you now to say, you know what? I saw one movie for the week, but I really want to go out and go to Movie Town, because when I go there, this, and this happens, which I don't get at home, right? And that is where we are focused right now. Actually, this morning, 5 o'clock this morning, I'm talking to quite a few businessmen too, say, oh, how do you see? What did we have to do? So we exchange ideas, right? Because we're all in the same boat with different types of businesses. But that's what we're doing. We have to ensure that the quality of service, the quality of the food, the quality of the product, the experience that you come here is second to none. So if it means we have to make everything VIP, well, so be the case. If you have to do a situation where you can buy your food in advance before you come, so be the case. If you have to do loyalty card programs and make you win points and you can get a free movie ticket or something else we want to offer, so be it. And that's what we are doing right now.
And just before we wrap this interview, what is your parting advice for a young business person who sees you as someone who has been successful and would love to emulate or to follow and develop their own business? What would you say to that young business person?
I think believe in your dreams. I know Mr. Sinanan took me to the task yesterday because he told I was criticizing the government in terms of this revitalization program, but that was totally wrong. It was misinformation. I love my country. I'm here. I have substantial assets. My homes, everything are here. And I think for a young person, you believe in your dream, you have an idea. Many people, when I first bit Movie Town, didn't support me. It was me against everybody. So, you have the little angel on one side and you have the little devil on the other side. You talk to them. But you believe in your product, you believe in your idea, and you have to stick at it. You're not going to be successful in the first wave or the second wave. You stick at it, you believe it, you feel it, you dream it, and it happens. That's my advice at this point in time.
Thank you ever so much, Derek. And on that note, stick with your dreams. Go with the failures. Ride the waves of success. That's a wrap on Demming Chronicles. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Demming Chronicles. And on this segment, we have the idea, the inspirer, the person behind Lisa Faye Designs. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, Denise. Thanks a lot for having me.
How has the market responded to Lisa Faye Designs?
Actually, very well. And it really warmed my heart that they did. what I basically do is paint on silk. So it's just like how you paint on canvas, which I've done in the past and do sometimes, but I paint on silk. So they're getting an opportunity to wear art, literally have a piece of artwork wherever they go. So it's a special piece, it's a special item. It's not just a luxurious item. I have an item that also is casual with different silks, but I do only work with silks, and I'm really very happy with the response from the public, both locally and internationally.
And Lisa, what inspired this? Where did this come from?
I've always been a textile designer for over 30 years. My father's an artist, my uncle's an artist, so I grew up around quite a bit of art. But the actual line, I used to provide different designers with fabrics as well as do people's interior. And one day my husband said, why don't you come up with a line? People like what you wear, because I would, of course, come up with designs that I would wear. And people would compliment me. And I said, you know what? Why not? So that's where Lisa Faye hand-dyed silk clothing came from. And we did it. And it's been about 5.5, 6 years that my boutique has been operating. And I definitely can't complain.
Okay. What infrastructure is needed to make ventures like your own successful? What do we need to do in Trinidad to make them successful?
Well, you need money, that's for sure. Some kind of capital. And it's okay to start small and slowly grow. Slow and steady wins the race. But you do have to have some kind of investment in the business, because being a textile designer is the raw material. It's the fabrics, whether it be clothing or drapery or cushions. That I have a cushion line now that I do as well. So you need to have some kind of a capital. You also need to have the infrastructure physically as the space to work. It's something that takes a lot of space. It takes a lot of time. So there's a lot that's intricacies that are involved in actually with the bringing off a finished product. But I would definitely say that if someone is a small business, if banks or credit unions could help them realize their dream, it would make a big difference.
And what role do you see the government playing in supporting that establishment of infrastructure?
Trinidad and Tobago has some amazing, amazing designers. We have some really great people in textiles, in craft, in jewelry, so the whole industry altogether. And I would really like to see that small businesses have an opportunity, an easier, smoother opportunity to be able to sell their pieces to the world. I think that we are world ready. But there are little hiccups, like the e-commerce platforms being a smooth and affordable avenue for small businesses to be able to sell their stuff globally. To help a lot of, during Carry Festa, we would have had a lot of small businesses who were doing crafts, and some designers as well have an opportunity over a period of time. But having an idea of a hub where they can go on a daily basis and operate their business at a reasonable price so that they can get the opportunity to grow. I think if that kind of infrastructure where the government could help would make a big difference.
And that's a great idea, Lisa. You just mentioned that there's a physical infrastructure. If there is a hub that people can go to, and probably at a low rental or whatever charge, you have a space to operate in. So you're doing that as physical infrastructure. And then the other point you've made is the e-commerce platform, making e-commerce a little easier for people. And that's a challenge that the country continues to face. But for me, where do you get your supplies? Where are the backward linkages in this country to help you to produce your products?
Well, I have to literally import everything. I cannot, it's just not available. Otherwise, I would love to run downtown and get it. But my silks are imported, my dyes are imported, my embellishments are imported from India. So I have to literally have a middleman company to make sure that I get the best quality silks, because it's very important that I give my clients the best quality that there is. So there's a lot of that goes on before we even get to producing here in Trinidad. And it's not that it can't be done on another form of fabric like cottons, which are available. We have wonderful, cottons here in Trinidad, but my choice is silks. And so, that's just one of the things I have to go through in order to produce my product.
But that is fantastic because what you're doing is you're importing the products, importing raw materials, you're adding value to it, and then you're selling it. And there will come a time, if you're not doing it already, where you would be exporting that and therefore getting back foreign exchange.
Yes.
Have you got an export market?
I do. Thank goodness for Instagram and Facebook and social media. It's amazing that in this time, especially at my age, that you could now say that you can see the world from your phone.
Yes.
And the world can see you. And so we use social media. And so I've had people from all over the world message me asking for my pieces, and then I just export them to them. But again, as I said, because Trinidad and Tobago has so many people who do wonderful work, if that process could be easier for us to get our products out there, I think that we would get an opportunity to really see that market grow in a way that has never been before.
And Lisa, as we bring this interview to an end, there's a question that I like asking people. What brings you joy?
My family. My family brings me great joy. The fact that I worked, I toiled and I toiled and I toiled. A lot of people might think that Lisa Faye is now, no, but I've been painting for several years. But the fact that I'm able to do what I love, and it's my source of income, to be able to paint regularly. I always tell people when I'm painting, it's like my church. It's where I deal with everything and come to a finished product. But to actually be able to do what I've always wanted to do full time now, that definitely is top of the list together with my family.
And on that note, thank you very much, Lisa. Lisa has said that what brings her joy is doing what she loves. And fortunately for her, what she loves is also her business. Thank you ever so much. This is Demming Chronicles. And on today's program, we chatted with Derek Chin and Lisa Faye. Lisa Sarjeant of Lisa Faye Designs or Fashion Line. We'll be back with you shortly. Welcome back, and I wish to thank Derek Chin for his words of inspiration, his suggestion that young people need to follow their dreams. Don't be afraid of failure. I'm also very, very thankful that Lisa Sarjeant came onto the program. That was Lisa Faye's line of tie-dyes, not tie-dyes, but silk with paintings on it, your wearable artwork that she has been doing. The business has been going for about 5 years, but she's been painting all her life. Thank you so much to both Derek Chin and Lisa Sarjeant for being part of Demming Chronicles. Until next time, be safe.